Okay, we're going to look here at making a fly lead for an LED. So for this we'll need an LED. I've got a 5mm red LED here, some component wire which has been twisted up, two colours of component wire twisted together, some heat shrink, a soldering iron, a pair of wire strippers, a pair of wire cutters, a steel ruler and a hot air gun. So first of all we're going to take our component wire and measure off about 140 millimeters. Let's move that up so we can see there. So if we take our steel ruler, mark to 140 millimeters and just make a small, just cut it with the clippers. So there we've got our twisted wire. If we untwist about 1 centimetre of the wire and straighten the ends, and then at the other end a little more, possibly 2 centimetres of the wire, and we can leave those, just leave the little twist marks in. Then we take our wire strippers and we're going to take the insulation using the wire strippers, just take the insulation off about 5 millimeters, 5 to 10 millimeters. So, and twist up the strands of the insulation. So I've done that there, and on the other end. If we twist these wires up as soon as possible to keep them neat. Then what we're going to do with the soldering iron and a small amount of solder is we're just going to tin these wires. Now tinning the wires means just adding a bit of solder until it flows into the strand of wire. You can see there. So I move the steel ruler away because we don't need that now. And just any blobs on here, you can clear those off, because ideally we want these pins to be able to fit through holes in the circuit board. So once we're at that stage, we can also add a small amount of solder, just tin the legs of the LED. Just a small amount of solder on each of the legs of the LED. Then we take our two small pieces of heat shrink tubing and place those and move them down so they're at least a couple of centimeters from where we're going to solder. We need to do that because we don't want the heat to travel down and activate the heat shrink. We then line up. Take care to notice which of the legs of the LED you're soldering to. So I'm taking my long leg here and I'm going to solder it to the taking my long leg here and I'm going to solder it to the red wire. And just let that cool down slightly, and then I need to do the same. Now here it's worth just coiling this round, and if you can, getting someone to help you, because it is a bit tricky getting the second wire on. If you have solder on both pieces though, it should Be quite simple. Then we move our heat shrink up, and the last thing we need to do, if we put a hot air gun here, put the heat shrink into the position so it covers the solder joint, and take care not to touch. Treat the end of the hot air gun like you would the soldering iron. It gets very hot. It also remains hot during use. You can see now that the heat shrink, which also is quite warm to the touch, has shrunk, reinforcing our solder joint and giving us insulation. The last thing we can do is retwist up the wires, and LED fly lead is ready to fit to our circuit board.